What if I told you there's a banned book that delves into philosophy, faith, and the unwavering courage of martyrdom? A book that pushes the limits of human endurance and challenges the very essence of staying faithful to God. That book is 4th Maccabees, and its message will make you question the depth of your own convictions like never before. Unlike the historical Maccabean books, 4th Maccabees doesn't simply continue their narrative. Instead, it takes a bold step into new territory, presenting a profound philosophical discourse on how unwavering devotion to God's law can triumph over even the most intense human emotions. The gripping accounts of Eleazar, the 7 brothers, and their mother enduring brutal torture for their faith turn this book into a powerful testament to steadfast commitment. Drawing deeply from the martyrdom narratives of 2nd Maccabees, this text becomes a compelling meditation on the relationship between faith and reason. As with all banned books, 4th Maccabees was left out of the biblical canon for reasons some may accept and others may question. Our purpose isn't to convince you, but to provide insight. Take in this knowledge, reflect on it, and determine for yourself whether its message holds significance for you. If you're fascinated by banned biblical texts and their deeper meanings, don't forget to explore our banned book playlist, where we uncover hidden gems like Enoch, Jubilees, and more. And for those seeking to deepen their faith beyond these discussions, we've compiled some of our most impactful teachings into books available on our website to support your biblical studies. Now, let's dive into 4th Maccabees and uncover the incredible power of faith and reason. Unlike most biblical books, 4th Maccabees is not a historical record of wars, genealogies, or divine revelations. Instead, it stands as a deeply philosophical work with a theological core and exploration of how disciplined faith can master even the strongest human impulses, including fear, pain, and the instinct for survival. At its heart, this banned book wrestles with an age-old and ever-relevant question: what gives someone the strength to remain faithful, even in the face of unbearable suffering? The text builds upon the martyrdom narratives in 2nd Maccabees, particularly the accounts of Eleazar, an elderly priest, and the 7 brothers and their mother, who suffered unimaginable torment rather than break God's law. But rather than merely retelling their sacrifices, 4th Maccabees elevates them into a broader philosophical argument. Through their harrowing experiences, the author makes a striking claim: that reason, when firmly rooted in devotion to God, can overcome even the most overpowering human emotions. This message transcends time, resonating with anyone who has ever faced trials that tested their spirit. The text presents reason as a force stronger than fear, more enduring than pain, and more resolute than the natural instinct for self-preservation. Yet, this isn't just abstract philosophy, it is demonstrated through the lives of real people who displayed extraordinary courage, defying human understanding. Their faith wasn't merely cultural or emotional. It was a conscious, deliberate choice to honor God above all else. The author, likely a Hellenistic Jew, well-versed in both Jewish theology and Stoic philosophy, skillfully merges these two worlds. The Stoic emphasis on self-discipline and reason blends seamlessly with the Jewish principle of obedience to God's law. The result is a compelling argument that true freedom isn't found in surrendering to desires, but in mastering them through faith and dedication. In this way, 4th Maccabees isn't just a reflection on martyrdom, it's a guide for anyone striving to live a disciplined, God-centered life. But the question remains: how does this apply to us today? What would you do if your faith were tested in the most extreme way? If faced with a choice between life and loyalty to God, would your devotion and reason be enough to keep you steadfast, or would fear and pain take hold? The stories within 4th Maccabees force us to confront these difficult questions, challenging us to evaluate the strength of our convictions. Though not included in the biblical canon, its themes reflect struggles found throughout other sacred texts, making it a thought-provoking addition to the study of faith, reason, and endurance. Throughout history, believers have faced trials that tested their faith, from the fiery furnace of Daniel's friends to the persecution of early Christian martyrs. The idea that faith has the power to overcome fear is a recurring theme in Scripture. However, 4th Maccabees dares to go further, exploring the inner workings of faith through a philosophical lens, making its lessons even more compelling. Why, then, is this book not part of the canonical Bible? After all, its themes of endurance, devotion, and courage align with many biblical narratives. Yet, its exclusion raises important questions about the nature of Scripture and the process of canonization. 4th Maccabees is not included in the Protestant Bible or the Hebrew Scriptures. However, it holds a unique place in certain versions of the Greek Orthodox Bible, where it is appended as a devotional text. This positioning acknowledges its inspirational value while distinguishing it from books considered divinely inspired. In this way, 4th Maccabees is regarded as a source of spiritual reflection rather than a doctrinal foundation. One key reason for its exclusion is its literary style. Unlike 1st and 2nd Maccabees, which document the historical struggles of Jewish resistance against Hellenistic rule, 4th Maccabees is primarily a philosophical discourse. Rather than focusing on divine intervention or historical events, it emphasizes the intellectual and spiritual strength of devout reason. Its heavy reliance on Stoic philosophy for a departure from the theological framework traditionally associated with Scripture. Imagine a gathering of early church leaders debating which texts should be included in the biblical canon. While 4th Maccabees may have been respected for its moral and inspirational insights, its philosophical approach likely raised concerns. Could its emphasis on human reason, even when rooted in faith, draw attention away from God's sovereignty? Did it risk over-intellectualizing concepts that Scripture conveys through divine revelation and lived experience? This shift in tone, though profound, may have been seen as inconsistent with the Bible's primary mission of communicating God's redemptive plan in clear, accessible terms. Whereas books like Psalms and Proverbs offer wisdom inspired by divine revelation, 4th Maccabees leans heavily on Stoic principles of self-control and rationality. While these ideas do not contradict biblical teachings, they present a distinct perspective that may not fully align with the Bible's core theological themes. Additionally, 4th Maccabees builds upon the martyrdom accounts in *2nd Maccabees, particularly the tragic yet inspiring stories of Eleazar and the 7 brothers. While these narratives reflect biblical themes of faithfulness under persecution, their retelling in a philosophical framework may have been considered redundant or secondary. If the original accounts already convey the message of devotion and sacrifice, why include a separate reflective essay on the same subject? Despite these reasons for its exclusion, 4th Maccabees continues to resonate with believers who seek to understand the relationship between faith and reason. It challenges readers to consider the role of intellectual discipline in their spiritual lives and encourages them to explore how devotion can equip them to endure even the most unimaginable suffering. His sacrifice sets the stage for an even more harrowing account, the martyrdom of a mother and her 7 sons. Each brother, refusing to renounce their faith, steps forward to face brutal execution. Rather than pleading for mercy, they proclaim their trust in God, affirming their belief in eternal justice. Their mother, instead of succumbing to grief, encourages them to stand firm, urging them to see their suffering as a path to divine glory. Her words reflect both a mother's love and an unbreakable commitment to God's covenant. This narrative echoes the martyrdom of Stephen in Acts 7, who, even as he is stoned, prays for his persecutors, demonstrating a faith unshaken by fear. These stories challenge us to examine our own commitment. Would we remain steadfast in the face of ultimate sacrifice? Though modern believers may not face death for their faith, trials persist, opposition, ridicule, and the temptation to compromise. The courage of Eleazar and the 7 brothers serves as a call to unwavering conviction, reminding us that true faith is not about comfort, but about steadfast devotion to God's truth. The courage of these martyrs was not just personal, but communal. Their steadfast faith served as a powerful testimony to those around them. This highlights the importance of spiritual fellowship, reminding us that when believers stand together, they strengthen one another in the face of trials. Their example compels us to ask, how far would we go to defend our faith? This question is not just theoretical, but a call for deep reflection on the foundation of our beliefs. The martyrs of 4th Maccabee did not possess a passive faith. It was lived out through suffering, demonstrating that true endurance comes from a life anchored in God. Their sacrifice transitions into a broader reflection on faith and reason, a key theme in 4th Maccabees. The text argues that devout reason, rooted in God's law, enables believers to overcome fear and temptation. This aligns with Paul's words in 1 Corinthians 9:27, where he speaks of disciplining his body to remain faithful. Unlike Stoic detachment, 4th Maccabees presents self-control as deeply connected to love for God and the hope of resurrection. This perspective transforms suffering into a testimony of faith. Paul's exhortation in Philippians 4:8 to focus on what is true, honorable, and pure mirrors the martyr's ability to rise above fear through devotion to God's promises. Applying this today, faith and reason must work together not just as an intellectual exercise, but as a guide for daily life. Whether facing moral dilemmas, societal pressures, or personal struggles, believers are called to rely on faith for strength and reason to navigate choices with integrity. The martyrs of 4th Maccabees challenge us to live with unwavering conviction, ensuring that our faith is not just professed, but embodied in every aspect of life. 4th Maccabees teaches that devout reason and faith are not opposing forces, but allies, enabling believers to live with conviction and courage. The martyrs' unwavering commitment to God highlights the importance of self-discipline, spiritual community, and perseverance in trials. Their ability to master fear and pain was rooted in devotion, reminding us that spiritual discipline through prayer, scripture, and resisting distractions is key to staying anchored in faith. Growth, refining our character, and deepening our trust in God. Their legacy challenges us to cultivate a faith that is both thoughtful and resolute, ensuring our lives reflect unwavering devotion to God's truth. Daniel's unwavering commitment to prayer, even under the threat of the lion's den. Daniel 6:10 mirrors the devotion of the martyrs in 4th Maccabees. Their examples remind us that spiritual discipline is essential for facing life's challenges. The martyrs endured suffering because of their unshakable hope in God's promises, demonstrating an eternal perspective. Colossians 3:2 urges believers to set their minds on things above, shifting focus from temporary struggles to lasting rewards. The story of 4th Maccabees invites us to reflect on our own faith and discipline. Are we prioritizing our spiritual lives, resisting distractions, and leaning on our faith community? Do we see trials as obstacles or as opportunities for growth? More than just a historical text, 4th Maccabees is a call to action challenging us to embrace spiritual discipline, live courageously, and leave a legacy of faith that inspires others. As we close, consider this: will your faith encourage others to seek God with boldness? Will you stand firm in your convictions, just as the martyrs did? Let their unwavering devotion inspire you to live a life fully anchored in God's truth. If this message has encouraged you, share it with someone seeking a deeper walk with God. Stay blessed.